at a round table. So imagine we are all sitting at this round table. There's a boil of soup in the middle, a lot of wonderful ingredients, which you all just put in the middle of this bowl. And the more we put into it, the tastier the dish will be in the end. That's basically the idea of a hot pot. In the end of this hot pot, if we have more time, I will have a lot more advertisement about the things that you see us doing, what we offer for all of you. But now is the time for all the speakers. Very happy to have you all on board. And Chris, I hand back to you.
Thank you very much, Annette, for that introduction. And yeah, as we say, the aim of this event is to try and just to bridge the gap between research and community outreach. We're all trying to find new ways to do that. And perhaps one that's becoming more and more prominent is the idea of STEAM, so introducing the arts into the traditional STEM format. So today's session, we have a great selection of speakers who use film and art to try and engage their publics. And yes, I will quickly pass you over to our co-hosts from Falling Walls Engage. So welcome, Melina.
Thank you so much. Hi, everyone. So nice to meet you. Thank you for the words, Annette and Chris. So yeah, Milena Sarsi, working to the Engage Hubs events at Falling Walls Engage. For those who don't know us yet, we are a global platform for science engagements in cooperation with the Robert Bosch Stiftung. And our mission, a bit like UC, is to connect and support established and emerging actors in the field of science engagement and to foster mutual benefits for science and society. And so, yeah, we're very happy to have this culinary session today around films and arts with all of you connecting from various countries. We'll talk a bit more about what we have in terms of platforms at the end of the session. But I think without further ado, I would love to introduce the two first speakers for today. The first one is Stefan, who is joining us from Germany. So Stéphane Kenmoe is a habilitation candidate at the Faculty of Chemistry at the University of Duisburg-Essen and a Falling Walls Engage winner 2021. Stefan is a science popularizer, a science writer, and a novelist. And today, Stefan is going to speak about the film series Science and the City, a film series in 26 episodes based in Cameroon. Stefan is very active in the promotion of early career African scientists and for connecting science and society. Because we thought that was not enough, we are also joined by his colleague, who is Laure Régine Ngo Nlondok. She is a Cameroonian actress, also here with us, joining from the African continent. She played in several Cameroonian and Pan-African films and series, and acted herself in 2020 in Science and the City. As part of this project, she later advocated for science throughout Africa and also as part of the project Making Science the Star. So yeah, we're very happy to hear about Stéphane and Régine today, and I guess that the floor is yours.
I'll quickly share the screen.
Perfect.
So here we go, I think. So I come from Cameroon, and as Milena just said, I'm based in Germany at the University of Duisburg-Essen. And coming from Africa, we see that compared to other countries in the world, many African countries, most of them don't invest a lot into science, so less than 1% of the gross domestic product to research and development. And then just few people realize that there's a strong connection between how much we invest into science and technology, economic progress. So, and the consequence that had in the long run is that compared to the average in the world, Africa just have 100 scientists per million inhabitants. This is 1,500 in the world. And then another consequence is that Africa just generates 1% of the production, right, in terms of research in the continent. So there is an important need to improve the scientific culture in Africa, not only among scientists themselves who should communicate more, but also in the general public, decision makers, and people who also don't have anything to do with science. And then this is where we are engaged. So we use cinema, arts, science writing, to promote science, to bring science within everyone's reach on the continent. So I'm heading a project entitled Making Science the Star. And what we do basically is the main focus is to produce movie series that bring science to everyone. And the procedure that we follow is that we organize meetings between scientists and professionals of the movie industry. We discuss about topics aligning with the local needs in Africa, depending on where we are. And we implement our discussions and agreement in movie series. So the first production that we had was in 2020, the movie series in French, Dans La Cité, so Science in the City, where we address various topics aligning with local needs, that I said, like biomass, energy, health, which are actually critical problems in Africa. And I was inspired by people like Neil deGrasse, who usually wants celebrities to engage for science, is actually right. And I first wrote a novel, La Science Illumine la Cité, in French, to Science Illuminate the City, like Harry Potter first, and then the movie came later. And then it's that movie that we brought to the cinema. So I looked for some professional who could write a scenario and actor that could play in the movie. So actually, I will share with you a very short trailer. It's 1 minute of the series.
You agree with me that he's into magic?
No, I don't think so. No, I don't agree. I just know that Kemi is not dumb. Kemi's too smart. He can't be collecting that urine, all that waste. I mean, he's surely using it for something, probably to generate electricity.
Those are fish scale fiber of collagen on fish scales.
Fiber, collagen. Really, I don't understand anything, Kemi.
All fish scales connected in series are capable of generating a potential difference of 14 volts.
She's capable of moving objects. I think that's known as levitation. But now, her ability to control the human body, that's complicated. I don't get it. Now, how do we keep our clients despite the shortage of pepper? That's our main challenge because it's going to last for a while.
Like, seriously, it's complicated there.
I really wish it could be different.
Wonderful. Tell me, what exactly do you do for him?
Well, I'm producing pepperish tomato.
Pepperish tomatoes?
Exactly.
The water containers that Kemi usually...
So this is just to tell you how we do it. It's a sitcom where, I mean, the main story is a scientist that could not find a job after his studies, and then he come back to Africa, to Cameroon. The main activity there is the bar. So this is where we try to bring science, right? In the bar where everybody is coming, right? Discuss science there. People after work go there. And then this is how we try to make the thing attractive, right? So, and I think we were quite successful in the sense that for the first time, we could put science in the landscape of the, right, cinema in Africa, in the sense that you see all this production. This is, for example, a platform called Cinema African. It's the kind of Netflix version, right, in Cameroon or French-speaking Africa. And then for the first time, we have something talking about science, about other drama or other kind of filming. And we have been successful to, for the first time, also bring this kind of, production to local TV. We did a job, a great job of proximity, going to TV that are not only accessible on demand, like on the platforms like Netflix, but also that people can access in villages just by using cable, because distribution in Africa is quite different from what we can see in Europe. So the aim is to produce more, right, and have a critical mass of people who can engage for science. And then apart from that, what we have done is that we have launched a campaign all over Africa, not only to interest the general public, but also to go into labs and get scientists out of the lab, because scientists, sometimes they don't want to go out of the world, and then they think that people should think the way they are thinking. This, for example, in the middle regime, she was in Cotonou to advocate for CRISPR technology, about, using CRISPR technology to make tomato pepperish in the future, using the technology that was awarded the Nobel Prize in 2018. So it's far from the reality in Africa, but at least we don't want Africa to be the last, right? Because in many domains, mankind is evolving without Africa. So if you cannot do, at least we have to let the people be aware of how humanity is evolving. So we have been in Congo Republic, Benin, DRC. The lady here at the right was the scientific advisor of the president of the Republic. So she was quite supportive. She's among us today in the audience. So, and we have been invited in many other countries in Africa, but we are still waiting for things to be concrete. So the idea is good because we are partnering with people in many universities on the continent. We are writing joint scenario together, and then we are making science to get out of the labs and universities. And I'm happy that people, actors and actors like Régine are really engaging and using their celebrity, I mean, to give a word and a room for science in the opinion. So my last slide is just a conclusion. What is the feedback? So we have been successful to bring this production to local television, right? But to translational television is quite difficult. You know, the distribution of movies in Africa is mostly dominated by the French channel called Canal Plus, A+, and TV5. And then there they found the production too elitist for Africa, which was kind of offensive to me because not everybody doesn't have anything to do with science in Africa. There are also intellectuals coming from Africa. So we are translating whatever we do in French and English, which are the most spoken languages there. And I mean, in terms of how is the offer right, accepted by the public, I would say that the feedbacks are good because we have millions of viewers, thousands of feedbacks, and people asking to produce more. But as we know, usually how it works on TV is that private TV live on product placement, right? You have to bring people who can do placement, and then you share, right, the incomes. And if you don't want to do it, you have to look for funding, right, for production, for open science, which is not obvious. This is why we only had that production at this moment, which was actually a loan that I took here at the Deutsche Bank to do it. So at the end, I would like to tell you that for this project, we have involved 80 professionals from the movie industry, actors, script writers, directors. This is, for example, the film of what we did. And it was just a sitcom. This is why it was cheap. And then most of the actors were just volunteers because I cannot say that I paid them really. And then they are really doing this campaign in Africa. They are not paid, like Régine, who is among us today. So, I mean, shortly speaking, this is what we try to do to boost the scientific culture in Africa, because I strongly believe that this is the help that Africa needs, right? The scientific culture, not money that comes from everywhere, and that is not used for the right purpose. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Stefan. That was a very, very interesting talk. I'm not sure if Régine also wanted to add something.
Okay, hello to everyone. Je vais m'expliquer en français pour que ce soit plus rapide. Ma participation dans Sciences dans la Cité fut une merveilleuse expérience parce que, de base, je n'espérais pas jouer dans un film purement scientifique. J'ai adoré et prêter mon jeu à une aventure scientifique, pour moi, c'est la meilleure chose qui me soit arrivée dans mon parcours professionnel cinématographique. Donc, au jour d'aujourd'hui, je serais ravie de toujours prêter mon image à tous les projets scientifiques qui pourraient se présenter à moi pour pouvoir montrer aux yeux du monde que le cinéma et la science peuvent faire chemin ensemble et créer ensemble une symbiose pour pouvoir avoir une alchimie, pour pouvoir toucher tout le monde et montrer à tout le monde que science, ce n'est pas seulement dans les laboratoires, c'est aussi sortir et aller au-devant des scènes, au-devant des télés pour que tout le monde sache ce qui se fait dans les laboratoires.
I think we can translate. Maybe Stefan, do you want to?
Yes, she says that this is the best thing that happened to her since she's an actress. And then she has realized how much science is important and how science is daily present among us. And then she will be happy to participate to any project of this kind and learn from experienced people like you who are among us today.
Perfect. Thank you, Régine. Do you want to add anything?
No, for the moment.
So yeah, we do have a couple of questions. So we have a little time for just one or two now. So one from Anna. So I don't know if you wanted to step in and ask your question directly to Stefan.
Sorry, just turning my video on and wearing my headphone. Hi, I want to know.
I didn't mean to.
Sorry,
it's
okay. It's okay. I think it's more polite to show my face when I'm asking a question instead of just showing my picture. So it's just more. It's more human anyway. And I want to know if you partner with the local public libraries to expand the reach, because public libraries are like really close to the community. They know exactly what their community needs because they see them every day. So I'm just wondering if, yeah, it's also a physical space that's already have probably the necessary facilities. So I just wonder whether you partner with the public libraries too.
Yeah, I understand your point, because the viewers that we had from the US said that, okay, this is worth, for example, being at the Library of the Congress, stuff like that. But unfortunately, we don't have such libraries back home, right? The few that are existing are the French libraries, who kind of, I mean, show on TV what they want and show to the community what they want, right? And this is, I don't want to offend anybody, but this is the kind of science colonialism against which we are fighting. So imposing to people what they should watch on TV and what they should read in libraries, right? So we are doing the other way around because it's not existing. I mean, the structure, there's no structure like that in Africa. Maybe in English-speaking Africa, but in French-speaking, I'm sorry, this is the reality.
Thank you very much. And we do have one more. I think we have time for one more question. So Stephanie Okio, would you like to join us?
Yeah. Hi, Stefan. Great initiative. Just a question. How are you engaging schools? Because I think the content will be interesting to see how it can be, how it can supplement school curriculum topics or science topics. And also there's the aspect of science education, but there's also the aspect of creative arts. So how are you combining these two and bringing about capacity building in schools?
Yeah, that's cool. Capacity building, what we do is that, you know, the series is as follows. So first actors play, and then I come at the end, I do a kind of summary, 3-minute summary about the science, where it was produced, who is the author of the theme that we are addressing in the series or in the episodes. And then talking about schools, right? In schools, we go to primary schools, we talk with students to create vocations, and then we talk also about, I mean, how they perceive science and how they think the world should be and stuff like that. This is why I said during the presentation that in school, university, and everywhere we go, we try to write joint scenarios, right, with people there. So we don't always come with the ideas, we also go to people to get the idea, right, and then put it into movies. So it's not only us, having the main ideas. So we want to share, to show to the community that we have this potential. We are a group of people with many competencies. Join us and then make things together. So it's open. It's an open platform.
Thank you very much for both of those questions. We do have time at the end for some further conversation, but I think we'll be moving on to our next speaker. So now we'll be joined by Andrea Brunello, who is an independent researcher and playwright, with also a director and actor, multifaceted, with the project. I should have asked how this was pronounced. I did check everything else, but Art de Destro project, which also has been working quite recently with a flagship sort of project, which is Jet Propulsion Theatre. So Andrea is going to be talking about how to use storytelling and theatre to engage in science. So thank you very much for joining us.
Thank you, Chris. Good attempt. It's Ardito Desio, but that's great.
Sorry about that.
I should remember it. It's a good way. Okay, so so hello everybody. It's really great to be here, and I'm gonna share my screen and then take it from there. and then leave the questions at the end if you have any. And let's see if I can move my screen. Okay, so the point of today, I will run through a few slides with you, and it's to share with you the experience that we are doing here in Trento, Italy, also with the University of Trento, where I also work. But the question that we have been asking ourselves is how to do so that you can engage audiences with theater and storytelling in some sort of consistent way. I will try to also bring the case that it's not so easy. So let's get started with some of the theater that, you know, classical science theater. So we have the life of Galileo, for example, by Brecht. You know, it's a very, very famous example of really solid science theater. But there was a dramatic question, you know, to renounce or not to renounce, and Galileo had to answer this. So the focus was on the human side. And then another great example of science theater is Copenhagen by Michael Frayn. And here, you know, it's the meeting between two greats of quantum mechanics, Heisenberg and Bohr, in Copenhagen in 1941. And here, the big dramatic question is, you know, why did Heisenberg go to Copenhagen? To understand the secrets of nuclear weapons, or what? So these are great examples of science theater, but they are sort of a one-off shot. There are other examples that are often made here. I list a few of them. But as I said, these happen only once. Playwrights write them, and then they sort of forget about science with their next things. If you went to the Fringe Festival in Edinburgh this summer, and you looked around for science theater, you probably would have noticed that for the most part, science theater is meant like this, you know, science magic, people making things explode. If you're a child, if you're an adult, you might want to, you know, enjoy yourself with this XXX version of science magic, but it's still, you know, that kind of theater which is mostly about experiments and explosions, which is great, but it doesn't have that you know, emotional punch that other plays might have. Or you might find yourself looking at some, you know, very, very good stand-up science, but again, it's a little bit different from the kind of theater that I was talking about before. There are some great examples of, you know, more recent productions. This is a Belgian company that does some really great things, and Lies, it's a production I've been lucky enough to see. It's immersive theater. I will be more than happy to tell you more about this later. I just, you know, don't want to dive too much into it. Or also this experience by Zone Critique, Bruno Latour and Frédéric Aïtouati in France. Great work, really interesting. Or another great example of science theater that I enjoyed, and I'm sure a lot of Falling Walls, you know, people here know what I'm talking about. This What If Scientists Rule the World forum theater that happened last year. I mean, really an interesting example of theater, also because it was multi platform. It was also online. There are other examples of interesting, sometimes really great stuff out there that it tries to engage people with theater, like, for instance, Story Collider in the United States, or this, another friend of UC, Sam Illingworth, with the Poetry of Science, and maybe you have had a chance to read his latest book, Science Communication Through Poetry. But when you boil everything down, you realize that the topics of a lot of these are mostly biographies or big scientific discoveries, you know, gravitational waves, Higgs bosons, or controversial topics that have to do with social anxieties, like the economy, GMOs, or even, you know, the climate change, things that really move people because people are scared, or glamorous topics, you know, like quantum mechanics or relativity. But there is a big but right there, and the reason why I'm bringing this up is because I run a science theater festival here in Trento, Italy, and we know how hard it is to find good shows that talk about things that are not glamorous. Things like spin currents or magnetic resonance or semiconductors and things like this. So the question that we came up with, our dramatic question, if you want to look at this as some sort of a personal theater journey, is, but what science are we talking about when we talk about engaging people with science? You see, are we talking about the glamorous science, or can we talk about anything really? And to this, I will add, a few words about this concept of critical science literacy, which is really a very, very fundamental thing when you try to engage with people. If in a very recent book by Emma Whitekamp and Carla Almeida that just came out, and I will talk a little bit more later, you realize that when you go and look at the audience, what the audience want really is the learning experience and not so much the engaging story. And that's because they're used to this. For the most part, the science theater that they see is more about the content than about the theater. And to me, it brings up a weakness in how we can engage people with theater. So for the most part, these are the bottom lines that I'm trying to bring to you. You know, audiences might be excluded. There is not this focus on critical science literacy. And in general, it doesn't touch topics in their variety. So let me just move on very quickly. I was telling you about this science and theater book because right there, we just recently produced and wrote a chapter for this book on augmented lectures. And I want to share with you in the last 4 minutes I have about this augmented lectures concept, which make part also of a curious project here for Creative Europe that I will be more than happy to share with you if you have any questions with partners in Europe and our science festival here. I apologize if I'm moving so fast. So it starts from the bottom idea, from the idea that artists often do not really possess the tools for understanding science, and they produce things like gravity, which, to anybody who knows some science is an aberration, although, it's a great entertainment, but not so much about increasing scientific literacy. On the other hand, scientists, they have a hard time with the tools of emotional communication. They suffer from the curse of knowledge, which is this idea that they, forget what they knew, how they were before they learned things. And so the bottom line is we came up with this format of augmented lecture to create a lecture where scientists and artists can really and fully collaborate on stage. And I'm going to give you some quick ideas on this. Both of them on stage work together on a 50-50 level to convey the scientific information, both emotionally and scientifically. The artist and the scientist are on stage to put each other off balance. They really do. They provoke each other. They make it so that the storyline can come out bringing up their human sides. And it's extremely simple. I will tell you more if you want about why it should be this simple, but the team that we build to create these augmented lectures are really just a scientist, an artist, and a director. The director is fundamental because it needs to keep everything together. These augmented lectures have an improvisational nature. They need to be extremely minimal in their technical requirements because they need to be made anywhere, in schools, in museums, in libraries, anywhere. And essentially, they have this power to take any scientific topic that is brought by the scientist and turn it into a successful lecture. So the outcome is that these lectures become tools for schools and universities and everything, and they can touch upon complex subjects that otherwise other theater is not able to do. They break stereotypes. And let me just give you some really quick examples. For example, Dante the Cosmonaut is about when Dante, meets God in the paradise, in the Book of Paradise, and he has no words to describe God, but it's really just like an actress here, Laura Anzani, who has no words to describe her characters because she's not those characters. So that's where the scientist and the artist meet. Or here, Gianluca Lattanzi talks about what is life seen from the point of view of a scientist, and Maura from the point of view of art. And both of them talk to their deceased grandfather about this, and it's a beautiful and touchy conversation they have. Or again, and I'm closing because 10 minutes have gone by, on gravitational waves, here you have a father, Antonio Pereca, talking to his daughter, and the daughter has seen him go away when he was younger and disappearing for years while he was working on gravitational waves, and she's asking him, why did you leave me? And he tries to explain the beauty and the wonder of science to her, to convince her that it was worth. So there are many more examples. I don't want to take more time, but let's not forget that people, we never forget how you made them feel. They might forget what you said and what you did, like Maya Angelou managed to tell us. So I hope I didn't run too fast, but these augmented lectures are our own personal experience, and I'll be very happy to share more with you. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. And yes, you did keep the time very well. So thank you for that. Is there anyone with any questions? I have an immediate one if nobody has one that is very pressing right now. I'm just wondering what the process is like with getting the scientists to take part. It seems that some researchers are a little bit more apprehensive about, I don't know, it's sometimes hard enough to get them to use an old kind of adage, get them out of their labs a little bit, out of their ivory towers to come down and participate in these sort of projects. What's that process like?
Yeah, you bring up a really important question. In fact, the process is we run workshops for scientists, and then the scientists learn a little bit about storytelling, a little bit engaging, and public speaking in science communication. And then out of these workshops, only a few of them will decide to continue. Mm-hmm. And they are the ones that actually come up to us and say, hey, I'd like to do an augmented lecture. At that point, we bring in the artists. The artists mean the scientists only after the scientists have really proposed themselves. And that's how we create these pairs. So it really starts from the need of the scientists to be able to, to go through this. And not all scientists are make themselves available. Not all scientists can really do it. And but those that do typically do a really good job.
Okay, thank you very much. And I think we have a question from Annette. So Annette.
Yeah, it's following up Chris' question a bit. I guess what we all want to do is to integrate public engagement more into research processes. And I think what you are doing is so rewarding and so sustainable in the terms of getting new knowledge and a new way of understanding processes. My question is, have you seen this integrated into a research project so that people really make it part of their academic work? And if so, or if not, how could we do this? Because I think this is what is needed, to not make it like an extra exercise that they will enjoy, but to somehow integrate it into their research.
Okay, so I didn't have the chance to really say this, but these augmented lectures are part of a project that we are running here at the University of Trento on science engagement and the communication of research. So really, we have been working quite a bit with these researchers and with the communication department here on turning this not on just an entertaining or a sort of occasional event, but to create some manual on how to generate this augmented lecture. And this fits in really well with this project, with this European project, Curious. We are producing a white paper that I'm actually writing right now with my colleagues, but I'm more or less in charge of doing it, on gathering all of the experiences, not just ours, but also from the other partners. because we really believe that this process should fit in research projects of research groups in order for them to become more engaging. You know, this thing called you know, this third column, the third mission of universities, you know, to make them more powerful in engaging people. So yeah, we would really like to turn this into more of a research project and integrate it with the groups that are doing exciting scientific research.
No, that's really interesting, and thank you very much. Again, we're going to have time at the end, so for now, we'll say thank you very much for your contribution.
Thank you.
And yeah, next up, we have Urke Huminga. I did run that past her to begin with, so hopefully I didn't ruin it on the second time round. But yeah, who is a professor of sociology at the Protestant University of Applied Science in Bochum. And she will be talking about the power of video games. So perhaps a art form that's quite often overlooked, but definitely has potential for, I don't know, a different sort of engagement compared to other sorts. But I don't want to be stepping on her toes too much about what she'll be talking about. So without further ado, I'll pass you over. Thank you very much for joining us.
Thank you for the introduction. Let's try and start the presentation. Always too many windows here.
Just to let you know, that seems to be working.
All right, sounds good. Okay, so as Chris said, I'm going to talk about the potential of digital games and storytelling for science communication and public engagement. And in order to do this, I thought I'd start with a few facts about digital gaming. I just don't have pictures here. Okay, because yeah, digital games are still often considered to be a bit of a nerdy cultural phenomenon. But if we look at these numbers, you can see that in Europe, in the year 2022, we had 430 million gamers, which is quite a large number. And worldwide, it is a stunning number of 3.2 billion gamers, huge number. And of these gamers, 48% were female gamers. It's not this male nerd sitting in a downtown basement playing all on his own. 48% female. And the average age was 37 years, roughly. So it's not even a teenage cultural phenomenon. So if we look at these numbers, we can already see that this is a massive cultural phenomenon. And it's really no wonder, because we already know that gaming is very deeply rooted in the human species. Playing games is something that the human species has been knowing probably for millions of years. We can't really tell, but we know that games have been played forever. And looking at these numbers, we can say that wherever we find digital media, we find digital games. Games are played by all sexes, by all genders, by a large number of people of all ages and of all social backgrounds. So why am I showing this to you? What I want to say is games, digital games, have a really large potential to connect people. There's another phenomenon that has a really large potential to connect people, and that is storytelling. The French philosopher that I'm quoting here is called Roland Barthes, and he said about storytelling, nowhere is or has there ever been a people without stories. The story is international, it's trans-historical, it's trans-cultural, and therefore simply there, like life. He probably could have said the same thing about playing games. So what I really want to say is playing games and telling stories is something that really goes very well together. And it's something that people already know. Most people like playing some kind of game, and most people like some specific kind of stories. And there are quite a few digital games, really most digital games, that already have some kind of story integrated into them. And the really good news is there are quite a number of digital games that have already some kind of science content. So to sum it all up, digital games have a potential to connect people across social borders, across age lines, but also, and this is the very special thing about digital games, across spatial borders. You can play games with people all over the world while you're sitting in front of your screen. That is special about digital games. And the time factor is not so important when you're playing digital games. Digital games can tell wonderful stories. Stories have a potential to connect people, and many digital games have science content. So digital games and storytelling makes wonderful combinations in terms of a potential for science communication. So this has been rather theoretical, and I thought in order to show you what you could do with games, it would be best to give you just a few examples. If you are a gamer or are a little bit familiar with games, you probably know that there's a huge variety on the market. They differ a lot in design, in story, concerning the platform you have to use to play it. So you can use your mobile phone, you can use a console, you can use your notebook, whatever. So I just, not randomly, but I picked a few just to show you the variety. And what I'll try to do is I'll tell you what those games are about, and then you can give me a shout and let me know which trailer you want to see. Because I don't think we'll have time to watch all of them. They're roughly between 1 and 2.5 minutes long, so we won't have time to watch them all. But I can give you a quick overview what they are all about. The first 3 games are all rated USK 0, which means they have no violent or sexual content whatsoever. They can be played by very small kids as well. The last 3 are rated USK 12, which means they have no really violent content, but they are considered to be for teenagers above 12 years old. I didn't choose any games that have very problematic content. They are all considered to be adequate for educational purposes. And of course, they all have science content. So I'll give you a quick summary of all the games. I'll just rush through this. So Braid is the first one. This is a very artistically designed jump and run game. I hope if there's any term that I'm using, just give me a quick shout. I can't see all of your videos right now. A jump and run game. It's an indie game, very successful, and it stands out from other genre representatives due to its very special narrative style. The central element of the game is the manipulation of time. So the concept of time or temporality is taken up in the various levels of the game world. For example, you can slow down or even stop time. In addition, the game offers a complex examination of the motive of love and interpersonal relationships. So it's got a science content, but it's also got like a social science content, which I like quite a lot as a sociologist. So Braid can be used as a basis for reflecting on the topic of time, but also enables discussion about the construct of interpersonal relationships. Second one is called Ludwig. The players try to find sustainable energy sources in the role of a research robot, while also trying to save the people on a space station. The story takes place in the year 2098. The energy reserves are running out, and the robot has to look for new opportunities. It was designed as a serious game, which means its purpose was to be educational. It was designed for physics lessons, but it's got a very high fun factor and motivates the players even for outside of the classroom use. Next one is a free app. It's called The Unstoppables. It's got not exactly science content, but social science, I would call it social science content. It deals with topics such as disability, inclusion, and accessibility in a very playful way. In the game, the players switch between 4 heroes, each with their own strengths and special features. These have to be cleverly combined with each other to solve a criminal case. The characters are very unusual for digital games because they all have physical, sensory, or cognitive limitations.
Just to let you know, we are just in the interest of time, I have put all these trailers online, so maybe we could pick from the top 3 rather than going into the others. So just for the interest of time, if you'd like to learn more about Braid, which was the time manipulation game, just let us know. Ludwig, which I think was the energy saving kind of robot, or the Unstoppables, which had some interest in like social issues and disabilities, I believe. Was that correct?
Yep.
Yeah. So we've had one vote for Unstoppables and 1 vote for Ludwig. Maybe the next one can be if we have 1 more vote, we can maybe break the tie. If 1 for all 3. Oh, Ludwig, here we go. So that's 2 for Ludwig. So just for the interest of time, maybe we'll have a look at Ludwig, but we do have all these trailers on the Padlet, which I will share at the end.
Okay, you want me to start the trailer?
Please, yes.
Okay. So can you see my screen now?
It's still the presentation at the moment.
Okay, yeah, same problem that we had. I'll pause it. I'll have to stop the sharing for a second.
So yeah, if anyone does have any questions while we're watching the trailer, please do post them in the comments and we'll get around to a few of them just after the trailer.
So, does it work now?
I can see a video screen. Oh, there we go. It's working now.
Alarm in the universe. All common sources of energy are almost gone. Planet Unitron wants to send its best man to solve the problem. But unfortunately, he doesn't have time. Instead, Ludwig, a small research robot, takes on a journey to search for new energies. An exciting expedition begins. Why does wood burn? And how does it happen exactly? Can energy also emerge from water? Is reason most important, or does the heart count? Only someone who knows everything can bring this mission to an end. But those who don't understand what they've learned are in great danger. Are you ready for this journey through the world of physics? Can you save Ludwig and humankind?
That's great. Thank you very much. Do you have any final words before we go into questions there?
Just that. So you see, this was a very, I'd say, comic style game. If you look at the other trailers, you'll find very artistical, like Ori, which is for older kids. This is one of the games that I love the most. This is a very beautiful, more fantasy style game. Or Portal, the last one on your list. Very unusual style. So just have a look at the trailers, because the thing about these games is that everyone prefers different styles, and you'll find something for everyone. This is there's a wide range of games out there, and it's fantastic how you can really cater to every taste. I hope I could give you a little bit of a taste for it, a little bit of ideas how you could work with storytelling and games. Thank you.
Thank you very much. I have a question, unless anyone else, I don't want to be taking up everyone's time with my questions. So I do play a few games, so I am familiar with a few of the titles in the trailer list. But I suppose my question would be, I suppose it was slightly answered by that last one, because quite a lot of kind of sci-fi kind of games, I would say mostly kind of promote kind of like quote unquote soft skills like problem solving or lateral thinking. But I suppose that last trailer just goes to show that you can incorporate actually some hard science into the actual game content, I suppose, working with research and actual science rather than just sort of a concept of like problem solving, I suppose.
Am I supposed to to answer that? Well,
sorry, more of a comment than a question, perhaps.
Yeah. The thing is, I mean, Ludwig was especially designed to be educational. It's what we call a serious game. The problem with serious games is that they're very often too serious and not much fun to play. So a good serious game shouldn't be I mean, if someone plays it, you shouldn't notice that it's a serious game, in my opinion. If it's done well, it's not a problem. But if you start playing a game and say, oh man, this is a very serious game, it's not fun. I mean, a game should be fun. You should be able to immerse in it. And I think this is all about the story. If it doesn't have a good story, it's not fun. And so, and this is often a budget problem. I think educational games don't have good budgets. They're not professional enough. So, and then probably it's the same. One of the things that Andrea was also talking about. It's the same everywhere. You can't. It still has to be science. It doesn't. I mean, what we're communicating is science, and it still has to be science. But then there has to be a good story, and that's I mean, that's what we're trying to figure out. How can we communicate science without making too much of a compromise?
Mm-hmm.
That's what we have to figure out.
I suppose you walk that fine line between just sort of gamifying a lesson and actually having a game, I suppose. For the interest of time, I think we'll be moving on, but again, we do have time for more questions at the end, but I'll be passing over to Melina for the final presentation.
Yes, I hope everyone bears with us for the fourth speaker and last speaker of today. So I'm very happy to welcome on stage Karthik Sharma, who is an active member of the Foreign Wars Engaged community. Karthik has majored in filmmaking and health humanities from University College London. He's joining today, I think, from the UK. He has founded a social enterprise, Public Arts, Health and Us, also called PAHUS, I think, which worked with organizations and universities translating research into engaging arts and film pieces. PAHUS was recently awarding the Best Social Enterprise Award 2022 by Santander Bank. And I think Karthik is going to share more about his work with this organization now. So yes, Karthik, the floor is yours.
Thank you, Melina, and it's a pleasure to be at the EUC and Falling Walls Engage event. I'll start with my presentation. Can everybody see the?
It's not in presentation. Oh, there we go. It's working now.
All right, great. So PAHUS is a social enterprise based in London that's Public Arts, Health and Us. We basically work with academics, researchers, and translate their research into arts and film pieces so as to engage and empower the target audience. PAHUS came about because we realized there's a gap between a lot of research which is produced, and it's not really has a clear or absorbable access to their target audience. So we kind of use the medium of arts and films to bridge that gap by translating research into arts and film pieces. So over the past few years, PAHUS has been working with a lot of universities in the UK, in India. We've done some work in Thailand. And some of the themes which we have covered are, say, homelessness, hygiene, racism, child health, and we've used different mediums. We've kind of tailored the art of film piece based on the themes. Say, for example, when we were doing something on racism, we created a coffee table book where we took pictures, we used quotes, and that was created. We've done animations. We've also created websites, digital portals, also created theater and public health film festivals where actors and doctors work together. And right now we're working on this feature-length documentary film, which I'm very happy to talk about. It's called Rajasthan Myths and Moods, where we actually worked with a professor from University College London, and we understood some themes they wanted to cover, say, on the role of women in the community and how it has a bearing on child and maternal health. And I think the proof of the pudding is in the eating. So why don't I start with a little piece from the, wait, I will have to stop sharing and share again. Yeah, can everyone see?
It's on the YouTube page, so yes, it seems to be working.
Okay, and it's audible, right?
There is certainly a more elaborate protocol here for invoking the goddess. First, a place for fire worship is prepared, called a havan. A Hindu practice going back many millennia, where the Gayatri mantra is chanted. And only once the mantras have been chanted does the main ceremony begin.
ये पट्टी तो आपने अस्पताल में करवाई है। हाँ वो तो ये तो हमारा तो प्लेट वाला है, ये तो हॉस्पिटल में करवाया, लेकिन ये टूट गया था, ये यहाँ पे हाथ को वापस तोड़ा और दोबारा पट्टी लगाई। तकलीफ सही रहेगा यार, तकलीफ तो होती है, उसका सीधा नहीं हो रहा तो फिर क्या करेगा? ऐसे ही रहता है हाथ, तो उसको कोई खाने में और काम करने में तकलीफ आता है।
पर पूछे भोपाल जी, आपने सुना कोरोना का कुछ?
एक बीमारी अभी भारत में बीमारी एक को सबको आधा आधा को सबको पहले तो हमारा कुटुंब का
कोई दवाई इन्होंने बनाई है? अच्छा,
के डॉलर्स के हिसाब से, और उनके कुटुंब को ही दिया, दूसरों को नहीं दिया, उनके कुटुंब वालों को दिया और वो सुरक्षित है।
ये सबने डोनेट किया
पड़े, इनको सफाई करके रखेंगे तब तक, मतलब हो सकता है तो इनकी जुगाड़ हो जाएगा, क्योंकि तो उनको माता जी को चढ़ाना पड़ेगा ना। अब इनके पास अभी पैसा नहीं है, पैसा भी कर दो कोई पैसा नहीं है माता जी को। पंचायत का सपोर्ट है उनको।
Yeah.
Autoplay, I think.
Yeah. So, so that's what the film is about. I'll quickly go back to the presentation. Can we see the presentation? Or we can't see the presentation?
It wasn't loading at the moment. It was a black screen. Maybe try again.
But yeah, so this is the, so the idea of the film was, so this is
the presentation isn't on. I don't know if you knew that or not.
Can you see the presentation now?
It's on now, yes.
Okay, perfect. Yes, so so this is a short 3-minute segment from a 1-hour film. So in this segment, what we touched upon was the role of rural health practices, you know, how they are kind of coping with COVID. So basically the idea of this particular film is about facilitating research, getting more human stories from the communities, and helping academics to try and understand when they have an intervention which has to be implemented in this field, you know, getting a more sense, the whole human stories behind, rather than just statistics. So this was the idea about this feature-length film, and also about, you know, balancing entertainment with education. You know, like many a times research films are very like, you know, preachy, or they are not really appealing for an audience. How can we pick up something which is informative, which is educational, and bring it to a level which is also entertaining, which has the tools of cinema, which is an emotional tool, of music, of cinematography. So it's a bit of an ambitious undertaking which we took, and we want to be reaching out to, you know, film festivals, and you know, also distribution channels like Mubi or Netflix, and bringing up stories. So this is co-produced with the university, with researchers and a filmmaker, and you know, so it's a pilot thing, and let's see how it goes from here, and we'll keep you posted. So that's about the film and my presentation here. Thank you for your patience and attention. Thank you.
Thank you, Karthik. Thank you so much. Let's see if we already have some questions about the movie and about the project. I don't see any question yet. Chris, yes.
I have another question. Sorry, I'm full of questions today. I suppose this is a question for you, Karthik, but it could be one that gets shared between the other speakers as well. I suppose, like a movie like this, as you said, you worked with the cinematographer, the researchers, and local communities. Are they, so I suppose, were they there throughout the whole of the planning and production phase? Was there quite a close-knit kind of relationship between all three parties? Or, yeah, I was just wondering if you could talk about the development of these sort of projects a little bit more. And yeah, if anyone else from the other speakers has anything that they would like to talk about in sense of collaboration, it'd be good to hear from them as well.
So the process for this film, which we followed, was that we understood firstly from the researcher or the scientist, what is it that they want to be covering. So they had particular themes in mind which they want to be covering, like maternal and child health, stories from the community, and the role of women in the society. And then, so this was basically three particular themes which they wanted to cover. So taking that, we kind of built the, and then this had to be a travel film. So based on that, we kind of did a research about, okay, this is the themes which we want to cover. These are the kind of questions we would be kind of asking people we meet in the field. And these are the kind of people we want to be engaging. So then we do a kind of mapping, and then we kind of find people in the field who could kind of connect us with these kind of individuals. So this is how we went about the process. And then we, once it is shot, you come back, you show it, because it's a feature length documentary, you know, it's like easier said than done. So you then cross-check with this academic, are they happy with what's been covered, how it's been depicted? Is it sensitive enough? You know, because many times it can get cliched. And then you go about editing the whole film together. So this is the kind of stages we went through for this particular feature film.
Thank you very much. I think we have either a question or comment from Stefan, and then I think we'll open the floor for anyone who wants to share any projects they've worked on or anything else. But yes, first, Stefan.
I think I'm opening that floor in the sense that the question is, I have two, one for Karthik and the other for the other panelists. So Karthik, I want to ask, because I see your approach there, and then how do you measure the reach of what you are doing? So how are you do you get sure that you touch the right people and then you get the right message? How do you measure it?
How do I measure that? Well, it's about, you know, the theme which we had, and, you know, like, so we have a professor on board, you know, and they are the expert. So I am the filmmaker, I have a public health background. So I'm focusing on the entertainment and the engaging side, the music and things like that. But we also, I have a background myself in regards to choosing the person, but the expert kind of gives us a credibility. Yes, you know, this is what we wanted to understand. This is useful for us. Like, you know, COVID, that person talks about COVID. And, you know, you read about in papers that in villages in India, you know, where it's a huge country, and I'm sure somewhere in Africa also you might have come across, where there are local traditional healers and people have a lot of faith in them, you know. They still go to them. They don't trust going to hospitals, maybe because there are too much of waiting lines. These people are more accessible. They understand the language. But how is it that you can understand that environment, you know, in which they operate? It's not just public, it's not just about health service delivery. It's also about religion. It's also about customs. It's also about a kind of, you know, talking to them. They're comfortable with each other. So basically, it's very difficult to put it on paper, research. Because if I may share an anecdote from my personal journey, I had written this article on tuberculosis, and there are field workers which go and are supposed to give medicines on TB. So I said, oh, no, they do gaming for numbers. This is not right. They only do the star performers, and that's how they get these numbers. And then I presented that in very nice conferences. And when I saw a documentary about the real problems they face in life, so that kind of opened a more contextual understanding. So sorry, Stefan, I think I've gone overboard. But that's so the credibility which comes from is having an expert who knows something about child health, who has done work on women empowerment. And then they say, yes, what you are depicting in the film is exactly what we want to talk about. So having a team together is my short answer to a very long monologue I just gave.
So if Chris allows, just to question Chris.
Sure, yeah.
So it's to everyone in the room. So how do you get funding to do what you do? Because in Africa, it's a tough question. So there's no way, because the way it works for people who are used to TV, you mentioned Netflix, for example. If I want to produce something, for example, for the African market, I have to go and discuss with Canal Plus and tell them, okay, I want to do this. And then they will say, bring the scenario, bring the main ideas. And then if it doesn't fit what they want to sell to the community or to the African population, they will not support it, right? Because when they support, we give them the copyright for 10 or 10 or 20 years, and they pay you some money and stuff like that. But if it doesn't work in line with what they do, you will never get funded. So this is the question I've always asked to Falling Walls and other friends, where to get, funding for open education via movies. I will be happy to hear from anyone here.
That's a great question, because I've heard that. I've done talks with another organization in Africa called Under the Microscope, and they're always asking about how to get funding from other organizations. So I suppose we could open that to the floor, I suppose, if anyone has. I don't know if Claire's got her hand up, but I don't know if that's to do with this or if there's another question. But yeah, Claire. There are lots of hands up now.
Thanks, Christopher. Yeah, it was a comment on this. We run I manage a public engagement program in Ireland in the University of Galway with a research centre called Curam, and it's very much focused on health, medical device research and improving quality of life for people living with chronic illnesses. And our scheme is called Science on Screen. We've produced about 7 documentaries since 2016, and they've reached nearly 1.5 million people worldwide. We have a set budget for producing them each year. So we partner, though, and this, I don't know whether this is applicable, but our model is to partner with a national film resource centre, so a not-for-profit group who have networks with filmmakers across the country. When we started, we got funding from a national agency to pilot the idea, we'll say, to produce the first 2 short documentaries. They're short, they're half hour each, TV half hour. The idea is that we, through our partnership with the Film Resource Centre, we target young professionals, young filmmakers who are starting out in their careers, but we have a mentorship aspect to it. We put filmmakers together with our researchers, and we select a theme each year. So we get our researchers to almost pitch their research to a room full of producers and filmmakers, and they basically, it's a competitive process. They pitch us then their proposals each year to for us to review and for our researchers to review. We have a set budget each year for that. It doesn't deviate. And what's happened when we got a pilot funding, what's happened in the year since, because they did have a good reach, they were broadcast and they go through different science film festivals. What happens then is we can attract partners who are interested in using the model or using film as a means of science communication to co-fund each year. So we've been able to maybe build that, but it's taken a bit of time to get to this place, but it's been a really lovely development of the program. And I think what's worked for us is the proof was in the pudding, if you like. Once we had produced the first 2 and people saw the reach and the ease of how to start a conversation when you show a short film as a non-intimidating conversation starter, it seems to have proven itself. So after the initial hurdle of getting the funding for the first the first one or two, it seems a little bit easier. That's not an answer to your question, but where'd you get the funding in the first place? But just thought I'd share that.
No, thank you very much, Claire. We do have a few more hands up, so I think we'll go to, I think Stephanie was first, and then we'll go to Annette. So Stephanie.
Hi, sorry, my video is closed. Just to quickly add on actually what Christopher you said. So our organization Under the Microscope, since September this month, has been talking to science engagers to know just the challenges and opportunities they've been having in science engagement when it comes to accessing to funding. And one of the, so far we've spoken to 27 individual science engagers who are active within this space. And I think the main thing that comes out is mostly if you're not attached to a research institution, funding becomes hard, and or otherwise you make it like a social enterprise. But just adding on what Stefan was saying, I think in Africa it's a little bit complicated because just finding for your education programs is hard. So add film to that, and that's something else. I think for us, the solution will be to do, and this was one of the suggestions from many of the interviews, is to have more funding within science engagement. We need more advocacy within local reach, and that's national. Because for example, if you see what Claire was saying, it's national agencies that fund such programs. So for example, I'm based in Kenya. If I could have the Ministry of Culture, cultural programs, to have more funding in film that support science content that is in collaboration with public universities, because public universities have a department for theater and film. I think that will be the way to go. But otherwise, this will just be a song all of us are singing 5 years from now, unless it's national agencies that fund or government agencies that fund such programs, particularly in Africa, because I feel there is little to no funding. Almost funding comes from outside if we're speaking from the African context.
No, that's really interesting. Thank you. I don't know if Annette still wanted to comment. Her hand is down, but I don't know if it just went down by proxy.
Just quickly to add, to link it to national strategies could really be something, or even regional strategies, wherever you can find someone who is in line with your policies, because especially the speakers from outside of Europe, I was so impressed by your linking of your goals to the larger goal of developing your country. I wish we had this much more in Europe, this understanding of science not just being about individual academic careers, but about improving a country and improving a nation's capacity to innovate. So there are some strategies, and one I would like to share in the chat is from South Africa, actually, and that's the national engagement strategy or national strategy for science engagement that was developed by the South African Agency for Science and Technology Advancement. And you will find a lot of good arguments in this, which you may use if you want to address policymakers. You can just steal from them. I think it's a wonderful way of putting it together in the world of policies. And if you play their language, if you say, okay, guys, you wanted to develop this country, this region, this city, here we are, we support what you're doing, and we only need a bit of support from your side. So just take a look at this white paper and at what SASTA is doing. I think maybe it can be an inspiration. And if you need colleagues, just let us know, and I can send you some names you could approach and address for more information.
Okay, thank you very much, Netta. And yeah, that's kind of the reason why UC, and I'm pretty sure Melina would say the same thing about Fallen Walls Engage. It's kind of the whole reason we exist, to sort of facilitate these connections. So hopefully events like these can help in the long run. David does have his hand up. I think he was going to talk about the project that he mentioned before, just another arts science project. So the floor is yours, David. You're muted at the moment.
Sorry. Cheers. Hi, everybody. First of all, on the funding thing, I mean, this is just an example I know of where there's been lots of funding for projects within Africa, particularly associated with a science communicator called Graham Walker. and that's the Australian High Commission, I think, and there are several projects around that mix of performance art and science communication. So you might look at that. The other project I was hoping to mention was the one that Science Made Simple, the company who I work for, worked with EUSEA, and this was an EU-funded project led by the Autonomous University of Catalonia, I think, called Perform, and it was looking at the relationship of science and the performing arts and how we might use street performance techniques or science clowning or stand-up comedy to engage diverse audiences with science topics. And there was a toolkit produced for that, which I'm pretty sure would still be in the UC toolkit collection, Chris?
Perform, yeah, they're part of our platform, which I think we'll be talking about next alongside with Melina. So I can bring that up shortly. Yes.
Okay. And to my original point in Andrea's session was that we ran a project called, I put a link in the chat for it now, called Visualize the Beauty of Science. And it was a non-verbal science communication show that was deliberately designed to actually fit not so much into schools, but into medium-sized theatres around the world. And that toured around the world and appeared several times on the Edinburgh Fringe, as well as lucky enough to get to work with it in those visits in several places that it occurred around the world. So you might have a look at that if you're looking for some ideas.
Perfect, thank you, David. And I do want to have a little bit of time at the end for final remarks from our speakers, but just to pay the bills a little bit, this event was sort of created in partnership with Falling Walls Engage to sort of talk about different ways to do science communication and different ways to approach public engagement. So a little bit of a PR from our side. We do have the UC Science Engagement platform, which I think we can put a link into the chat, but it is also in the Padlet. So if you do, which is kind of a resource for any science communication practitioners who want to try and branch out into some different ways of approaching their science communication or public engagement. There's lots of resources there, including science busking, including science film festivals and that sort of thing, including science and arts. We are always looking for more and different resources. So if you do have an idea about what could be included on the platform, please do let us know. But yeah, we're also here to help facilitate. So if you do want to be put in contact with anyone that you've seen within one of these hot events, or if you're just inquiring about people who might be useful for your organization or your next event, please do get in touch with us. And I just want to pass you over to Melina, who will talk about the Falling Walls Engage Science Communication Globe world map. It's a world map, not a globe.
Yeah, thank you, Chris. It's a very interesting conversation, and I'm so happy that, yeah, we had this interesting themes today, not only speaking about films and arts, but also about the industry, funding, distribution, and how it also depends on the national context. So very interesting, and I hope more connection will be able to be made here. On our side, this Amount Many project this year, we have also launched a world engagement map. As mentioned, Chris, it's basically aiming at showcasing projects, institution, and funding organization around the globe. So I'm just also going to post in the chat if you're interested to put your entry on that map. You can also browse and discover other projects within your country according to the approach and according to the SDG relations, for example. So yeah, it's pretty easy to use and straightforward. And yeah, we would also love to have some of your initiatives on there. And we hope that it could bring also interesting connection with the funding as well. So yeah, I don't know if we have more time for questions, Chris?
We might have time for, I'd say possibly not. Unfortunately, with the hot events, they are we could talk for hours about these sort of things, but yes, we do understand that people do have the rest of their lives to go back to. Again, the conversation can continue through the Padlet, so I can post that again if anyone has any projects that they are wanting to share on there or any resources, please feel free. I will also share this again with the mailing list of those who agreed to be part of the mailing list. So I just want to say thank you all for joining us today, and I just want to pass you over to our speakers to see if there's any final comments from them. So we'll start with Stefan, I suppose. So Stefan, is there anything you'd like to add?
No, I'm very happy to have been here today. Thanks for the invitation. Thanks for the following walls, and Annette also. And I mean, we are going towards the creation of an association of African engagers, right? Because we are copying from you, so I've contacted some people already on the continent. So we are going to work closer with you to make it happen. So thanks. The opportunity gave us the idea, right, to do something in that sense. So I'm happy. Thanks for everyone who are here on behalf of Regine. I say also goodbye. Thanks on your behalf, Regine.
Thank you very much. Andrea?
Yes, I also would like to thank you all. And the thing that I am taking home with me and learning today, and again, once again, proving it, is that there is so much energy in this world of science, communication and engagement, a lot of wonderful ideas. I wish I had more lives so I could join in some of these projects and learn more and do them, because it's all very exciting. So I'm quite happy about what we did today, and looking forward to further communications with anybody that wants to connect. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Urke, anything else you'd like to add, just as final thoughts?
First of all, thank you for having me. It was great fun. And one thing that comes to mind is that as a sociologist, I'd love to do a project that does research on the science communication community, like on a meta level. You are such an interesting bunch of people. Yeah, as Andrea said, in my next life, when I've got nothing else to do, I'll probably do that.
Be careful what you wish for. You might get inundated with emails after this. So thank you. And Karthik, any final words?
Well, I resonate with all the other speakers. It's been really nice. Thank you for the opportunity, and it's very inspiring. And I've learned from not just the speakers, but also all the participants, what they shared. And well, I look forward to sharing the film when it's ready, and I hope everyone enjoys it. And thank you for having me here.
And yes, just final words from me. I'll pass you over to Melina just for anything final, but I just want to thank Falling Walls Engage for all their help in organizing, of course to Annette and to UC, and of course to our speakers, but also for you for turning up, because it wouldn't be an event without anyone to watch it. So thank you very much. Melina, any final words?
No, thank you, everyone. It was very, very interesting, enjoyable. Thank you for coming. And I think we should do that more often.
Yes, I think we could all, it would have been nice if it could be in 2 or 3 hours, but I say that, people might be wanting their lunch now, but no, it would have been great to hear more from our audience. But yeah, please do join us again for our next Hot Pot. We haven't got anything in the pipeline yet, but we always are looking for new ideas, and we do have a few thoughts that what might be. So we will be in touch, but if you do have an idea for a Hot Pot, we are more than welcome to hear what you think. I just want to say thank you again and have a nice rest of the day. So thank you.